I call the member for Hughes once the member for Fadden has quieted down.
Thank you. On behalf of the Parliamentary Joint Committee on Law Enforcement, I present the committee's report entitled Inquiry into Crystal Methamphetamines, ICE, the final report. And I ask leave of the House to make a short statement in connection with the report.
Is leave granted? I call the member for Hughes.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, the terms of reference of our inquiry, and I'll quote, was to examine the criminal activities, practices and methods involved in the importation, manufacture, distribution and the use of methamphetamines and its chemical precursors, including crystal methamphetamines, ICE, and its impact on Australian society. Deputy Speaker, it was quite a disturbing inquiry that we had, and we were presented with a lot of confronting evidence that the problem of ICE addiction, its harm to its users, their family and friends, our communities, societies, and the overall economy is quite disturbing, and it's disturbing also because it is growing. We do have the three pillars of our Commonwealth or drug strategy: demand reduction, supply reduction, and harm reduction. And one of the concerns that came to me during our inquiry was the actual resilience of the supply chain. Our AFP and our law enforcement officials are doing wonderful work intercepting and trying to reduce the supply of drugs onto the street. But the supply chain for these drugs is in numerous countries throughout the world, involving countless actors. And sadly, it seems the interception of drugs that we are making is no more than a mere ullage allowance for many of the gangs involved in the importation and distribution of drugs. When it comes to harm reduction, Deputy Speaker, there are very strong arguments that we need to invest more of our nation's resources in harm reduction. But ultimately, the best form of harm reduction we can have is abstinence from the use of drugs in the first place. And that's where, Deputy Speaker, I believe we should try and use more of our resources, is on that demand side. As one of our law enforcement officials said, we will never be able to arrest ourselves out of the problem of drug addiction. We need, Deputy Speaker, I believe, to try new and inventive and more creative ways of educating people of the harm of drug addiction, the harm that they cause to themselves from actually taking drugs. Deputy Speaker, the committee also made a visit to Portugal, which was on the 24th to 30th of September 2017, to look at what is often referred to as the Portuguese model of decriminalisation. And there are quite a few myths surrounding that particular model. It was often thought that the Portuguese model actually means that all drugs have become completely lawful, but actually we found it was almost the opposite, Deputy Speaker. Under the so-called Portuguese model, they have thresholds for every particular form of drug, whether it be heroin, methadone, opium, cocaine, cannabis, LSD, etc. And if you are found to have more than what is deemed 10 times supply of a casual user, Deputy Speaker, the penalties in Portugal, the criminal penalties, are actually many cases higher than what they are here in Australia. If you are found with under that level, you are still arrested. It is still an offence under Portuguese law, but rather than going through a criminal system of law enforcement, they take them through people through a drug dissuasion courts. And for Portugal, Deputy Speaker, that has had success. And I note some of the successes from the report, which we detail in the report, and they include Portugal's level of drug use are currently below the European average. The most at-risk population, people between ages 15 and 24, have shown a decline in drug use since the implementation of the Portuguese method. Lifetime drug use amongst the general population has increased slightly, but remains comparable to nearby countries. Past year and past month, drug use amongst Portugal's general population has decreased. It goes on, the continuation of drug use and the proportion of the population that have reportedly used drugs and continue to do so has decreased. So in fact, Deputy Speaker, it was the opposite of what was thought that would happen. If you did go down the track of decriminalising drugs for small quantities and take people through these drug dissuasion courts, the concern was that this would result in rampant drug use throughout the Portuguese society. In fact, the exact opposite was found. There is no easy solution to the problem of drugs in our society, Deputy Speaker. We need to continue to support our law enforcement officials, to continue those that work in the harm reduction field, but most of all, Deputy Speaker, we need to work on the education of our young people, because it is only through improving the education standards, informing people of the serious detrimental effects to their lifestyle, to their health, to their economic well-being and their overall prosperity if they go down the track of taking these illegal substances. Deputy Speaker, with that, I refer the report to the House. I'd also like to thank the Secretariat and thank the other committee members, especially from the Labor Party, that have attended the hearings and that we work together in a bipartisan spirit, which I think it's good that we can do that in this place, Deputy Speaker, and we should try and do more of it. I thank the House.